Picture this, a lavish birthday bash in 2012. The guest list reads like a who's who of Hollywood and the music industry. Pharrell Williams, and Britney Spears are all in attendance. This wasn't just any birthday party, it was a spectacle of extravagance orchestrated by a young Malaysian man named Jho Low. Low, barely in his 30s, was known for throwing the most opulent parties imaginable. From New York to Las Vegas to Hollywood, his celebrations were legendary, featuring A-list celebrities and costing millions of dollars a night. But behind the champagne-fueled nights and seemingly endless stream of cash, a sinister truth lurked. Jho Low's extravagant lifestyle was funded by something far more insidious, the largest financial scandal the world had ever seen. This is the story of the 1MDB scandal, a tale of international intrigue, government corruption, and Wall Street greed. It's a story where billions of dollars vanished into thin air, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Jho Low, the mastermind behind this audacious scheme, wasn't born into poverty. He enjoyed a privileged upbringing, attending elite schools that paved the way for his entry into a world of wealth and influence. At Harrow, Low befriended Riza Aziz, the stepson of a prominent Malaysian politician named Najib Razak. This friendship would be his golden ticket into the upper echelons of Malaysian society. Through Riza, Low gained access to Najib, who would later become the Prime Minister of Malaysia. In 2009, Najib Razak ascended to the position of Prime Minister, and Jho Low, then just 28 years old, saw an opportunity. Despite holding no official government position, he managed to convince Razak to establish a sovereign wealth fund called One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB for short. The fund was ostensibly created to drive economic development in Malaysia. However, behind this facade of progress and prosperity lay a calculated plan to siphon off billions of dollars. Jho Low, the seemingly unassuming party boy, had orchestrated a scheme of breathtaking audacity using 1MDB as his personal piggy bank. Jho Low's path to notoriety began not in the glittering ballrooms of high society, but in the hallowed halls of Harrow School. It was here that Low, the son of a wealthy Malaysian businessman, would cross paths with Riza Aziz, a young man whose family connections would prove invaluable to Low's ambitions. Riza was the stepson of Najib Razak, a rising star in Malaysian politics. Low, with his sharp mind and an uncanny ability to charm his way into the good graces of the powerful, recognized the opportunity that this friendship presented. He cultivated a close relationship with Riza, becoming a fixture at Aziz family gatherings, and ingratiating himself with Najib and his wife, Rosmah Mansour. Low, ever the astute observer of human nature, understood the importance of loyalty and discretion in this world of power and influence. He presented himself as a trustworthy confidant, someone who could be relied upon to handle sensitive matters with the utmost discretion. Little did anyone know that behind Low's charming facade lay a calculating mind, already plotting a scheme that would exploit his newfound connections and shake the very foundations of the Malaysian government. The seeds of the 1MDB scandal were sown not in smoke-filled backrooms, but amidst the manicured lawns and stately buildings of one of England's most prestigious schools. The year was 2009. Najib Razak assumed the mantle of Prime Minister of Malaysia. This marked a turning point for Jho Low's ambitions. He proposed the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. The fund, One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB, was born. It promised to transform Malaysia into a high-income nation. However, beneath this veneer lurked a more sinister agenda. Jho Low wielded significant influence over its operations. The stage was set for one of the most audacious financial crimes in history. Jho Low and Najib Razak needed a high-finance partner to raise billions. Enter Goldman Sachs, the Wall Street titan. Known for aggressive deal-making, Goldman was the perfect accomplice. Low approached Goldman with a lucrative, ethically dubious proposition. Goldman agreed to underwrite bond offerings for 1MDB. Enticed by hefty fees, they ignored red flags. The bond offerings were a conduit for personal enrichment. Goldman turned a blind eye, enabling a massive fraud. Jho Low, ever the master manipulator, understood the power of perception. And so, the idea for One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB, was born. Najib Razak, swayed by Low's promises, threw his full weight behind the project. 1MDB was presented as a shining example of Malaysia's economic dynamism. However, behind this facade lurked a far more sinister reality. It was, in essence, a giant slush fund for Jho Low, Najib Razak, and their associates. With 1MDB established, Jho Low needed billions. He needed a partner in high finance to raise massive capital. Enter Goldman Sachs, known for financial acumen and moral ambiguity. They saw 1MDB as a golden opportunity, a chance to underwrite bonds, raising billions for Malaysia. The fees would be astronomical, boosting careers and profits, but they overlooked red flags and Jho Low's shadowy dealings. Due diligence was ignored, blinded by profit. They enabled a scheme, looting billions from a nation. A spigot of money. How 1MDB became a personal ATM. With Goldman Sachs on board, the floodgates of money swung wide open. 1MDB began issuing bonds at an astonishing rate. Investors, lured by high returns, lined up to hand over their money. The money was funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts. Millions were laundered through businesses, art auctions, and real estate deals. 1MDB became a personal ATM for unprecedented greed and financial malfeasance. Goldman Sachs and the bond offerings. The wheels of the 1MDB scheme were greased with greed. Jho Low found a willing accomplice in Goldman Sachs. The Wall Street giant, driven by profit, partnered with Low. Low dangled the opportunity to underwrite bond offerings for 1MDB. Goldman, blinded by massive fees, took the bait. What followed was financial sleight of hand. Goldman Sachs raised billions for 1MDB. These bonds were marketed as safe investments. But the money was funneled into shell companies and offshore accounts. Goldman Sachs enabled one of the most brazen financial crimes in history. The illusion of legitimacy, using IPIC as a pawn. Jho Low and Goldman Sachs needed to allay investor concerns. They created the impression that 1MDB was trustworthy. They used Abu Dhabi's IPIC as a pawn. IPIC's backing gave 1MDB instant credibility. Jho Low convinced IPIC to enter opaque deals. These deals made 1MDB's bonds appear less risky. In reality, it was a smokescreen to lure investors. The money was siphoned off by Jho Low. IPIC later found itself in a legal battle with 1MDB. Fees of deceit, Goldman's cut of the spoils. Goldman Sachs orchestrated bond offerings for 1MDB, collecting astronomical fees. These fees were far in excess of typical underwriting earnings. The sheer size of these fees should have raised alarm bells. The allure of profit blinded Goldman Sachs to potential issues. The money was stolen from the Malaysian people, meant for schools, hospitals, and roads. Layering the loot. Securing billions was just the first act in Jho Low's scheme. The next challenge was laundering the stolen funds. Low's genius for financial engineering came into play. He created layers of transactions to obfuscate the money trail, using shell companies and offshore accounts. He obscured the origin of the funds. Living the high life. From mega-yachts to movie stars. Jho Low lived a life of unparalleled extravagance. He threw lavish parties, attracting Hollywood celebrities, supermodels, and the global elite. His parties featured rivers of champagne, A-list musicians, and extravagant gifts. Low spending knew no bounds. He bought luxury apartments in New York, London, and Hong Kong. He acquired a fleet of private jets, including a custom-designed Boeing 747. He purchased the mega-yacht Equanimity for $250 million. Low's taste for luxury extended beyond material possessions. He amassed a collection of artworks by masters like Picasso, Monet, and Van Gogh. He developed a penchant for high-stakes gambling. His extravagant spending was part of his money laundering scheme. For years, Jho Low and Najib Razak operated with impunity, protected by corrupt officials. But the truth has a way of coming out. In 2015, the Wall Street Journal caught wind of suspicious transactions involving 1MDB. Reporters Tom Wright and Bradley Hope meticulously pieced together evidence. They discovered the inflated price 1MDB paid for a power plant. This anomaly unraveled the entire scheme. The Wall Street Journal revealed money siphoned off to a company linked to Najib Razak. Hundreds of millions ended up in Razak's personal accounts, disguised as donations. The revelations sent shockwaves through Malaysia and the global financial world. The Wall Street Journal's reporting exposed the depth of the corruption. The Wall Street Journal's revelations ignited a firestorm of outrage in Malaysia. The people, who had long suspected that corruption was rampant in their country, were appalled by the scale of the 1MDB scandal and the audacity of those involved. Protests erupted across the country, with citizens from all walks of life demanding accountability and justice. Tens of thousands of Malaysians took to the streets, waving placards, chanting slogans, and demanding Najib Razak's resignation. The protests, organized by a grassroots movement known as Bersih, which means clean in Malay, were the largest in Malaysia's history, a testament to the depth of public anger and frustration. Razak, facing mounting pressure from both within his own party and from the Malaysian public, initially refused to step down. He denied any wrongdoing, claiming that the money in his accounts was a legitimate political donation. However, as the evidence against him mounted, and the protests continued unabated, Razak's position became untenable. In the 2018 general election, Razak's ruling coalition was dealt a stunning defeat, losing power for the first time since Malaysia's independence in 1957. The election results were a clear repudiation of Razak and his corrupt regime, a testament to the power of the people's voice and the importance of a free and independent press. With Najib Razak out of power, the Malaysian authorities launched a full-scale investigation into the 1MDB scandal. Raids uncovered luxury goods, cash, and documents. The scale of the loot was staggering. Razak and his wife were arrested and charged with corruption and money laundering. The quest for justice continues. The downfall of Najib Razak and the exposure of the 1MDB scandal marked a turning point for Malaysia. The country, once seen as a model of economic progress, had been shaken to its core by revelations of corruption. The new government, led by Mahathir Mohamad, vowed to root out corruption and bring those responsible to justice. However, the road to recovery has been long and arduous. Tracking down the billions siphoned off from 1MDB has involved authorities in multiple jurisdictions. The 1MDB scandal stands as a stark reminder of the corrosive effects of greed and the dangers of unchecked power. A small group looted billions, leaving economic devastation and shattered dreams. It highlights systemic failures and the culture of secrecy and impunity. The 1MDB scandal serves as a cautionary tale for all. It underscores the importance of strong institutions and ethical leadership. The role of a free press in holding power accountable is crucial. The fight against corruption requires constant vigilance and collective effort.